when I'm wrong, and I will be the first one to admit it. And today I want to admit that I was wrong about Facebook ads. Yes, I had some terrible, terrible times with Facebook ads that cost me $10K for not one single person coming into my space. But now I know I was doing it wrong. I've learned a lot in the last 7 years, and I disregarded this amazing opportunity to grow my show. And before you click off and say, Jen, I am not spending money on Facebook ads, you tell me you can't get people from Facebook to your podcast. Again, I was wrong. Hernan tells us how we can do this without breaking the bank. Yes, you could be spending $1 to $5 a day and reap big rewards. And this doesn't have to be hard. You're probably already creating the content that converts to great ad material on Facebook, and you don't even know it. I know I didn't. So guess what? Not only is this episode going to teach you how to create these ads so that you're not broke, that your show grows, but I'm actually going to use a clip that he helped me create from inside this ad during this a clip from inside this episode that Hernan helped me create as my very first Facebook ad. And you better believe it, I'm going to share with you all the things that I learned. So without just trying to convince you anymore, let's open up the doors. Let's open up our minds. And if you're ready to maybe spend 30 to 90 to maybe even more a month to see your show grow and get in front of new people with ease, this episode is for you, because it's not just the fluff. He gives you the exact step-by-step strategy of how to create the ad, all the way to which ads to set up, where to set them up, the URLs, and everything. He's given away the cow on how to create an easy ad that can create long-term success for you. So let's do this. Welcome to the podcast, Hernan. I am really excited for this conversation because we have not been talking a lot about social media on this podcast because most of us believe it doesn't work. So I'm excited for you to blow our minds and share with us how to make this work for our podcasts.
Yeah, super excited, Jen. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited about this as well.
So I've been doing a little research because I like to know my guests a little bit before we start into all of this. And you have done some really cool things for your clients and outwardly on your YouTube channel to build big giant, I want to call them big giant networks, but it's really big giant like bank accounts, which is one of the cures for pod fade, right? Is either numbers or money. We want to serve, we want to do all the things. But I want to know, for a podcaster, how can we use social media best to kind of keep ourselves out of this pod fade?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a great point. And I think that we've all been through pod fade at one point or another in our lives. I know I had, I've gained momentum with my podcast through the fact that what I learned after having a couple podcasts, and I didn't move forward. And then also applying some of the techniques and strategies that I want to share with you and with the audience after working with some big names, right? Like, for instance, I was marketing director for Grant Cardone for a year and a half. I worked with Frank Kern 3.5 years. I advised Graciosi, Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson's team. Right now we're working with some big names like Lionel Messi and some other big names. So, and most of our demographic, our audience and our clients at scale-driven.com have almost always been personal brands, influencers, educators, facilitators, people that they need to get their voice out there, right? And we've been kind of able to, those teachings and those learnings that I had working with these big companies, big personal brands with big budgets, and kind of, turn them into something that's digestible and actionable for people that might not have big, huge budgets to spend on their business, at least right now. So we kind of put together this strategy where it's inexpensive, it's effective, it's non-threatening, because I know that, Facebook ads sometimes can be like super threatening and super confusing and whatnot. And that's why a lot of people don't go into that. So we put this together in a way that's friendly, simple, and can get you, traction pretty fast.
Oh, that's exciting. I know I hired an agency and I spent around $10,000 and I did not get one conversion. And that was probably like 7 years ago from a Facebook ad. And I'm like, I am all out. This is not work. So I'm excited. I want to know a little bit about, okay, so if we're going down the Facebook ad role, are we setting that up to go into our podcast directly, or like, how does this all work with the small budget? I have all the questions.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, okay. So let me break it down. So the good news about whenever I teach this strategy, I always start with content, right? Content remains king. Like we all know that constant, like putting out content, helpful content that will impact your audience in the right way or the best possible way remains being king, right? That's a fact. So I always start with this, which is like, you need to be putting out helpful content, which is where your audience already is because they already have a podcast. So they're putting out helpful content. So how do you like leverage that? How do you squeeze more juice out of the content that you're putting out? And the way that we kind of move forward with this is pretty straightforward. So right now we're recording video, right? Most, I would say, podcasts that I've been interviewed on or that I'm part of, they start with video for the most part. You get the most yield out of your time from video. You can then turn it into audio and all of those things that we already know. But video, especially on social media, it's really, really powerful, right? So putting out helpful video content is the way to go. Now, how do you do this, right? So you're putting out a podcast episode, you're recording a podcast, let's say 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, however long. And potentially, if you're not doing it, you might start doing it, but potentially you're already doing it, which is like grabbing snippets, right? Out of that podcast, you grab snippets, you cut it out, or you like hire somebody to do it, or you leverage one of the many, many AI tools out there right now that they have sprouted and you can.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, for sure. An AI tool?
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a team. Which one can you recommend that does that?
I just use Descript right now. So.
Okay. Nice. All right, cool. So you go to Descript, but I do have a team that does that, but you go to Descript and then you grab snippets from your podcast, right? So that's what you are already doing that because Instagram, it doesn't allow like a 30-minute long podcast. So you need to have snippets. And then those are teasers that lead people into your main podcast episode. So you're already halfway there. Like you have most of the process already laid out. You have the content, you have the video content, you have the snippets. And so what I like to do is I like to do something called the 5x5 method. Okay. 5x5 method, which is something that we kind of co-developed with Frank Kern back in the day. Now we'll kind of put it on Twisted. So the 5x5 method is really simple. You grab, let's say that organically you're already putting out content, right? You grab your 5 top snippets that you've cut out of different podcast episodes and you post it on social media. And you might have already some traction with them. Not all the content, it hits the same way. So you grab your top 5 videos or video snippets, which are going to be helpful. And hopefully they'll also have links back to your podcast episode or ways that people can find your main podcast episode. So you do that and you go into the Facebook ads dashboard, right? So the way you do this is you go to business.facebook.com and that will usually take you to your Facebook ads dashboard. And then you grab those 5 episodes, those 5 snippets or those 5 little videos and you run or you show them, you create what's called an engagement campaign. Okay. This is important because when you're creating a Facebook ad campaign, you have 12, 13, 14, 15 different campaign objectives, right? So what you want to do is you want to use what's called an engagement campaign, right? That's the one that we've seen that has the best type of results. You could choose a video views campaign or an awareness campaign or a clicks campaign. No, just run an engagement campaign. And what you want to do when it comes to the targeting side of things, you want to select your ideal audience, right? You want to select your ideal audience when it comes to who you want to listen to your podcast, download your podcast, subscribe to your stuff, right? So you pick and choose your ideal audience. And then when you're selecting the placements, there's a section at the bottom when you're selecting where to show your ads, right? You can tell Facebook, okay, show them anywhere or show them everywhere, or you select, right? Automatic. That's called automatic placements. But my recommendation is always to pick 2 placements, the Facebook feeds and the Instagram feeds. That's it. Okay. So the Facebook feeds and the Instagram feeds. And the reason why you do that is because you want to show your snippets, right? Your video snippets in these two sections. If you show them like somewhere else, like in an Instagram story, you will not get results. So Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds. And then at that's campaign level, we select engagement. Ad set level, we select our ideal demographic and we select our where we're going to show them. On budget, you can do this with $1 a day per video, right? So that would be like $5 per day overall, right? So $1 a day can get you, can get you far. And the reason why is because you're keeping you're keeping people within the platform, right? You're keeping Facebook people within Facebook. You're keeping Instagram people within Instagram, and you get rewarded by doing that, right? Whenever you run, let's say, a conversion campaign or a traffic campaign, you're getting traffic outside of the platform somewhere else. And you're paying a premium for that because usually Facebook and Instagram, they don't like you to be taking people out of their platform, right? So that's usually the case. And on this case, since we're running an engagement campaign, we're not taking people anywhere. We're just asking Facebook, hey, Facebook, show these videos to those people that are going to engage with this video. And engagement in Facebook terms usually means consuming the video, engaging with the ad, or even clicking on the ad, right? Clicking on that snippet that we're going to show. So that's why I'm saying that $1 a day goes a long way on these type of campaigns because you can get a lot of reach and a lot of engagement just by doing $1 a day. And then at the ad level, so we talk about campaign level, we talk about ad set level, and now we go into the ad level. At the ad level, you select the post that you did on your page with that snippet of your main podcast. And then ideally on the copy of the post, you will have links to your podcast, links to your other social networks. You will mention the podcast name on that little snippet that you did and whatnot. And you run that to your ideal demographic. So what's going to happen is the following. Facebook is going to grab that post that you did on your Facebook page or your Instagram profile. It's going to run it to your ideal demographic. It's going to show it to a lot of your ideal demographic. And what's going to happen is you will start getting traction on those episodes. You'll start getting people watching those snippets, right? Clicking on those ads, going to your main podcast, subscribing to your podcast, going into your different links that you have there. And you do this by $1, just by doing $1 a day per video. So if you have 5 snippets, that's why we call it 5 by 5. So 5 snippets, $5 a day, $1 per video, and off you go. Now, the strategy and the secret behind the strategy lies in 2 things. Number 1 is the fact that we selected only Facebook feeds and Instagram feeds, number 1. And number 2 is that this is a mid to long-term strategy. You always want to have this running in the background while you're doing your podcast. Okay. You can sometimes shift and change like snippets if you think, oh, well, this piece of content is way better because we get better at podcasting as we go, right? And through time, the first episode usually is really bad versus the 50th episode that you get way better. So you may want to exchange those snippets for better ones as you go by. But what happens is that Facebook will tell you a couple things. Number 1, it will tell you how many people are consuming that content, watching the entire snippet, clicking out from there to your podcast. But also it will tell you which snippet is winning, meaning which one is getting the greatest consumption, meaning which topics or what podcast episode and whatnot is having the best results. And you realize this by actually checking on the Facebook dashboard, checking on the columns, and you can see, all right, I spent, let's say, $5 on this one snippet and I got 100 people watching it completely. And then on the second snippet, I spent $5, but I got 150 people watching it completely, right? Consuming it completely. And that means that the second snippet is working better than the first one. So you want to double down on that one. And that also gives you pointers as to what people want to hear more about, right? Or listen more about. So there's many benefits to spending a little bit of money behind your content. This will also accelerate your results. You will start getting engagement. You will start getting content. You will start getting likes. You will actually feel and see the traction, right? Which will prevent you from pot fading because you will see the numbers. You will start seeing the numbers as while you quote unquote wait and keep on working until your podcast organically really grows. This can help you a lot. Does that make sense?
It does. My brain is, okay, can I set up my ad right now? I'm converting. I hope everybody else out there is. And like I said, I came into this. I was like, when we first reached out, I was like, I don't know about Facebook ads because I had such a terrible, expensive experience with it. But I love this idea of $1 a day. You mentioned one thing that was a little confusing to me. Again, not a Facebook person. So we're running an engagement ad. And then from that engagement ad, we're running a secondary ad. Is that what I was understanding based on who was watching the engagement ad? I was a little confused.
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually you want to start with an engagement campaign, right? And then within that campaign, you want to have the way we do it is we have one ad set per snippet, right? And those 5 snippets will be shown to your entire audience at the same time, right? So if you put, because you have campaign, ad set, ads, if you put the 5 snippets within the same ad set, what's going to happen is that Facebook will not show them all together. We'll show one and then we'll show another and then we'll show another. You want them running all at the same time so that you can compare results. You can compare and say, oh, well, this snippet, say snippet number 1, where I talk about this thing, it's doing better than snippet number 4, where I talk about this other thing. So you can actually get guided into what content people want to listen more of. Does that make sense?
And if we don't want to do this ourselves, we can come hang out with you, right?
Yeah, you could. You could come out and hang out with us. Yes, we could do that for you. This is called a branding campaign. This is like the simpler version. There's some more complex versions where, for instance, if you're running the ads and if you are a little bit more advanced, you can create what's called a custom audience, right? And then you can select people that have watched 100% of all of the snippets, and then you show them other type of ads like offers and whatnot. That's what we do at scale-driven.com. This is like the 5-minute, 5 snippet, $5 a day type of strategy, but then we add some more layers to it. That's kind of the way that we're getting people known and trust out there. Because again, we work with a lot of personal brands. Mostly people are selling high ticket or some sort of high ticket or B2B type of service. And this process right here, even if you do the 5x5 method, can allow you and will allow you to increase your authority, right? Having a podcast is the ultimate authority play, right? So it will allow you to increase your authority when you're jumping on the phone with somebody and on the phone with somebody. It shortens the sales cycle a lot because you build all of this trust and all of this authority in the marketplace before they even hop on a call with you. We get that at Scale Driven a lot. It's like, I was already sold before jumping on the call because I've been seeing your videos, I've been consuming your content, and we put money behind our content. Even if it's not a lot, we do put money behind our content because we've seen and experienced the results that we're getting just by putting a little bit of money behind it. So,
yeah. And by a little bit of money, like the $5 a day, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm in. So second round of this is like, from your experience, when we're pulling those snippets, we're not just pulling anything, right? We're pulling, what are we pulling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say you're pulling the good stuff. Whenever you're like, oh, wow, I like that. That's what you want to show to the rest of people. And the reason behind it is I always say that advertising should be as helpful as possible, right? Advertising should be as helpful as possible because if you compare, after running this for a while, if you compare your organic reach of your posts versus the paid reach of the same post, the paid reach will be 3, 5, 10 times higher, right? Which is normal. It's the way it is. And it's the way we need to work with. But the point is that if your ads are going to get the lion's share of the eyeballs that your business gets, why don't you make your advertising as helpful as possible, right? Because otherwise it's all about the ask. Like the best performing ads that I've ever written, that I've ever launched for clients and for ourselves have always been as helpful as possible. I remember this time that I was working with Dan Henry, which is, he's a good friend now and we've been running ads for him for a while. And I remember that's the first time that I wrote $1 million ad for somebody, it was a literal essay. Like it was like a 24 or 2,500 word article that I posted on his Facebook page. And then we run that as an ad with just a link. Hey, if you want to learn more, go here. And he had an automated webinar running and whatnot. And the ad was so helpful. It was so helpful. It was literally, we were literally giving away the farm on that post. And then people really liked that post. It got like hundreds of comments, thousands of interactions and whatnot. But most importantly, it made him a lot of money. It was the first $1 million ad that I wrote. And then from there on out, I learned that the more helpful you can make your advertising, the better. So to answer your question, what should I be pulling off of these snippets and whatnot? When you're really giving a tip, when somebody comes out to you and say, hey, this really resonated with me, what you said in this episode, or you think, okay, well, this is the good stuff, then you can pull that and run that as an advertising, because that's how you build authority and that's how you build goodwill in the marketplace, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Serve first, then sell.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Serve first, then sell. So I've all these follow-up questions. I'm like, I don't even know where to go from here. But so we've built this ad, we've built this campaign. We're running it through, I'm assuming, a Facebook page, because we can't run it through our profile, correct? And our Instagram. Are we having to keep up with our Facebook and Instagram feeds all the time? Or is this ad, is there some way we can embed in, like, go listen to the podcast on this? Like how does that work for podcasters?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for this ad, whenever you're posting a snippet that you want to promote, you definitely want to have a call to action. Definitely 100% you want to have a call to action, both in the body copy, right, of the ad, like when you're on the caption of the ad or the body of the ad, the post itself, you definitely want to have a call to action. And in this case would be, hey, go listen to the full episode and subscribe to the podcast, right? So this would be the call to actions, and you're sending people to your corresponding landing pages or whatever it is that you're sending them for them to subscribe to, because you're only giving them a snippet. You're giving them a taste, right? You're giving them a teaser of the whole thing. So what I found works the best is having the call to action, which is go listen to the whole episode here. And then the second thing is go subscribe to the podcast here, right? Those two call to actions, you want to have them. And ideally, you want to have, depending on how you're editing your snippets and whatnot, you want to have the name of the podcast on the video. You want to have, ideally, what I like to do is I'd like to grab a really easy to remember domain. I think our podcast is Marketing Atlas. So if you go to marketingatlas.com, it will redirect you to a page with all of the episodes embedded. So I like to have that domain there embedded in the snippet and whatnot. But if anything, you want to have call to actions that get people to listen to the whole episode and subscribe to the podcast. You want to have that in the body copy. And if you can say it a couple times on the snippet itself, it's always a good idea, but you want to have that there. The reason why I'm telling you that you should say it or you should maybe edit that in on the snippet is because what we found is that while people are watching that podcast snippet, they will open a new tab and then we'll type it in. Boom, 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 boom. They'll type in your domain and they'll go to whatever it is that you're sending them to. So we've done this to grow YouTube channels. We've done this to get leads. We've done it to grow social media platforms and whatnot. And for podcasts, it works really well.
Oh, I'm like all in. You have converted me over to, I'm going to run ads. Okay. There's some things that I am going to stop doing and redirect those funds over, because now I can see how valuable these platforms that I honestly, I'm going to hang my head right now, but I've given up on trying to use to grow my business and my podcast. And I'm all for this. So again, Facebook novice, in the ad, we can actually put a link, even though it's an engagement, to leave the platform.
Yes, you can. And that's kind of a trick or a hack, if you would. You can post a link. In fact, when you're creating the ad, you're selecting it from your page. Facebook will tell you, do you want to add a link to this? And then you add a link to your podcast, right? On that post, and you add it, but then Facebook will still run it as an engagement ad. So you're not paying the quote unquote premium to actually get people out of Facebook. You will still get people out of Facebook because there's a bunch of people that will click on that link, right? Because especially if your content is helpful, you can add that link there, and boom, that's how you do it.
Okay. For those of you that are listening on the podcast and not watching the video, my jaw has dropped. Like, mic drop. That is so, I'm just, okay. Now I've got to reframe everything because I've given up on these platforms, but I can see $5 a day. I'm spending way more than that on trying to pay for other ads inside podcast players. Because podcast player ads, the cost of conversion is so high right now.
Right. And are you paying to get a subscriber, a download? What's the conversion event? Is it a subscriber or something like that?
It depends. Some ads are for downloads. Some ads are for followers.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, this is best. I would say this strategy is a mid to long-term strategy. I want to reiterate that, right? Because usually what happens is that as you start getting traction, maybe the first couple of days, and of course, if you have more funds to dedicate to this, you can, it will accelerate the results, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm trying to keep it in a way that's achievable, right? This is a question that I get all the time. It's like, what my budget should be to run my ads. I get this question all the time. Like, how much money should I spend on running my ads? And the answer to that is as much as you can, so as you can keep this running for a long time. So that's something that I also learned working with these big personal brands is that no matter what the economy does, if it's a recession, if it's this, if it's staff, like crisis, whatever, they keep on advertising. Like even if they had to lower their budget, right? They keep on advertising. I heard this saying once that it was like, I think it was Henry Ford that said it, that stopping advertising to save money is like turning off the light to save electricity. You know, it's like, it doesn't make sense. And people that are big into personal brand and whatnot, they understand they might lower the budget, but I think that advertising, especially on social media, is becoming more and more like a marathon instead of a sprint, right? So you want to make sure that you are in a position where you're spending a little bit of money in your business every single month, but that doesn't hurt you, right? If you cannot start with 5 videos, if you only have, let's say, $100 a month to spend, start with 3, right? That will give you $30 a day. That will be $90 a month, you know, so you can start there. Or you can do one video. The main point is that you can sustain this through time because advertising gets better through time. Your Facebook page will get better. The algorithm will get better. The machine learning will get better. People will start seeing your face a lot more, right? And that's generally a good thing, provided that your content is good and your products are good. So I think that if you can keep this running for a decent amount of time, I would say for a couple months, you will start reaping the benefits.
And as a podcasters, we all know it's the long game. It's not that we aren't going for so we've got that. We've got that on our side because we're all podcasters here. Right. We've got that on our side. So longevity. So just like with your podcast, you've got to put in you've got to put in the time to start seeing that growth. We've got to think of our ads in the same way.
Yeah, totally. I always tell my clients that. So you guys are as I said, like this is the next logical step if you think about it, because you're already creating content, you're putting out video content, you're grabbing those snippets, you already are in for the long run, right? So this is the next logical step if you want to accelerate your results a little bit.
Okay. And we all want accelerated results. For sure. No more pod fade for us. I mean, 85% of podcasters give up. And like you said, even if your budget is $30 a month, you can still keep something continually running until maybe you can add 2 and then 3. And I'm like, I don't know one person that can't find $30 or $31 if there's 31 days a month to at least have a little bit. If you're already putting in the time and effort and you want to quote unquote grow your business, why not do this?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
My mind is like I am so excited about Facebook ads now. All right. So if we're setting up our Facebook page, because now, again, I've already let go of these things. And I know that a lot of my clients, a lot of people that come to me have already been like, business pages don't work. I'm not going to put my time and effort into that because I don't quote unquote have the time. How can we optimize our pages without killing because most of us don't have teams. I am most people's team right now because I'm a producer for a living. So how can we manage to add this extra step to make sure that when people get to our space, we're still showing up?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think that the reason why I think people say, well, Facebook pages don't work or they don't get anywhere is because if you compare the organic reach that you get if you upload in your personal profile on Facebook versus your page, it will be 10 to 1, right? Because pages are meant to be advertised from, right? But organic on the personal profiles is much, much higher. Even for me, like we get, whenever I post, like if I post the same thing on my Facebook page or in my Facebook profile, I'll get 10 times the reach on my Facebook profile. No questions asked. So the reason why we kind of came up with this strategy is because it doesn't necessarily need for you to be uploading content every single day to your Facebook page or to your Instagram. It doesn't necessarily need for you to be sitting behind of a computer, uploading endless amount of content to places just to get ahead. That's not what we're trying to do. Like you can go about this strategy with, let's say, uploading once a week or twice a week if you want to. And that's it. Because the goal of this strategy, people will check out your Facebook page. People will start following you around on social media. But the goal of this strategy is to get people to know you, like you, and trust you, right? Get people into your main podcast episode, get people into your main podcast platform so that they can subscribe, they can follow you and whatnot. That's the idea here. Some people will say, oh, well, now that I have these Facebook ads running, I need to keep up and fill up my Facebook page. And you can like have a couple of episodes there just in case people check you out. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm not saying that you're replacing organic content because there's a place to that, but you're accelerating your organic content. A lot of our clients, they come to us and they say, well, I don't have the time to be putting out a lot of content on my Facebook page. And if we're running ads, we've seen that doesn't really matter necessarily. If you have good content, you have good targeting, if you're targeting the right type of people, if you have good call to actions, most importantly, your content is helpful. I think that people will find a way to your podcast and also following you around on social media. Funny enough, we don't have that many clients that they have like a super comprehensive organic content strategy with 10 posts a day or something like that. They're the minority. The rest of people are busy running their business and they don't have a team to actually take over. So I wouldn't necessarily sweat it initially, if that makes sense.
Okay. I am completely convert now. This is like blowing my mind because I'm like, okay, now I can do it for $31 a month minimum. Like if I only have a budget of that, I only have to post once or twice a week and I can still grow. Like, okay, mic drop. My mind is like, this can't be real. It seems too good to be true.
Right. And then the reality is that it's the same content that you're already putting out, right? Like if you're putting out a podcast episode every couple of weeks or a podcast episode every week or something like that, or you're grabbing those snippets, that's the content. That's all the content that you need. So it's the stuff that you're already doing. That's the point. It's the stuff that you're already doing.
So how long are these snippets? Because I know that like on Instagram, things like that, you want to keep them, the shorter, the better. Mm-hmm. Is that the same with an ad?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. And we found how attention spans for human beings are getting shorter and shorter, right? I think that Reels and TikToks and Shorts and all of that are making them even shorter. But what we found is if you're going to be posting, let's say that you post the same snippet on Facebook and Instagram, and that will be for the sake of simplicity and ease, and you don't have to be creating twice the content. What we found is that anywhere between 1.5 to 2 minutes, that seems to be the sweet spot, right? So up to 2 minutes, that seems to be the sweet spot. We've also gone to 2 minutes because that's kind of the limit on Instagram. If you're able to do 2 different snippets, one for Instagram and one for Facebook, Facebook is a more long form platform. So you can go up to 5 minutes if you want on Facebook. But if you're doing this once, 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, it can be shorter than that. But we found that in order for you to get a meaningful consumption, right? You can do this with 15 seconds if you want to, right? If you have like 15-second snippets, you can do this. But what we found is that 2 minutes of somebody watching a video on Facebook or on Instagram is a long time. We're not talking about YouTube, right? People stay for hours on YouTube. We're talking about Facebook and Instagram, right? So 2 minutes, it's a considerable amount of time for those platforms. And if people are watching the entire 2 minutes of something that you put out, there's a high chance that they're engaged with your content. There's a high chance that they will follow you, right? So at that point, that's why we develop quote unquote stage 2, which is, okay, we create a custom audience of everyone that consumed all of these content and then we show them more ads. But 2 minutes, one and a half to 2 minutes has been kind of the sweet spot for our content length of this 5x5 methodology.
So can I put you on the spot right now?
Go for it.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this as our snippet from this episode, and I'm going to try to do this episode. If we're going to run Facebook ads, we might as well talk about Facebook ads for podcasters. So are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So you using Facebook ads for $1 to $5 a day for a podcaster can actually grow their podcast. You're on. Tell me how.
So it's called the 5x5 methodology. You want to grab 5 snippets of your podcasts and you want to post them on your Facebook page with a call to action to get people to follow you, to get to the main episode. And then what you want to do is you want to grab those 5 snippets and you want to run them as an engagement campaign using the Facebook ads platform, selecting your ideal audience. Who do you want for people to follow your podcast? And you want to select Facebook feeds and Instagram feeds and place as placements, $1 a day per ad per snippet, $5 a day, and you can grow your audience like that.
Mic drop. So we can use Facebook. It was so good. We can use Facebook ads to grow our podcast. But I'm like, hey, if we're going to try this, we might as well try it on a platform where we're all like, let's do this. Cure for Pod Fade is getting more engagement, more growth, getting more eyeballs on our stuff, or I guess ears listening, because that's what we want on our podcast, not eyeballs. And I am so grateful for this conversation because, again, I came in with such a like horse blinders is the only way that I can say it, of like, oh, Facebook ads are on the other side. I'm not looking. I'm going to stick in my podcast zone because Facebook, Instagram, things like that have not been working in the past. And I love that you have totally just broken down this where it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be expensive to actually see results. So tell us a little bit more about your company, how you serve, just so that, again, if anybody else is out there listening, I'm sure you are out there. Holy crap, this can be easy.
Yeah. So scale-driven.com, we serve mostly personal brands, people with high ticket product services and whatnot, facilitators, educators, influencers and whatnot, mostly where the CEO is kind of the face of the company, right? And mostly where the sales process involves some sort of phone call. That's kind of our gig. And we help them developing the whole direct response marketing machine from the ads. We take care of all the ads on all of the platforms. Facebook and Instagram is just one of the platforms that we do. We do Google, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and whatnot. We also help them with their sales funnels, with their marketing funnels. We design, we write, we put together, we implement the entire funnel for them. And then we also take care of all of the follow-up sequences, the emails, the automations, all of that. We write them, we implement them. So I like to call this the direct response trifecta, if you would, right? Ads, funnel, and email. We also help them with strategy. As a fractional CMO, we do keep coming up with new offers, coming up with better ways of monetizing their audiences. And that's how we do it. So if there's anyone interested in learning more about that, you can head over to scale-driven.com and there's a message there and you can schedule a call and see if we're a good fit.
I love that. So we've got to end on, if you could add one ingredient or more, 1 or 2, 3, whatever it is, ingredient to the cure for pod fade, what would those ingredients be?
I think that, as we mentioned on the episode, a little bit of consistent advertising goes a long way because it keeps you engaged. It keeps you proud of your content. It gives you numbers. It gives you traction while you're waiting for the rest of stuff to come into fruition, and which they will. You just need to stick to your guns and be in for the long run. But I think that a little bit of money behind your content, because your content is worth it and your content deserves it. And if you're investing in your content, that's the best way to put it out there. So